Terrell Thomas, we are back in this episode of Live Hip Hop Dailies and These Urban Times presents Sideline Stories. We got a lot of dope things to discuss.
Yes, sir.
But without further ado, as we let the audience know, we will be joined this evening by a gentleman who I have the utmost respect for out here in this world, not only as a man, as a sports journalist, and just everything he does. If you haven't already, make sure you check him out on his platform. Follow him on social media. All of his handles are DNA Sports Talk. Once again, that's DNA Sports Talk. Goes by the name of Don Stinson. How you feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling good. All these accolades, I don't know if I can accept all that, but I humbly appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing great things out here. So it's always a pleasure to see you out here, see your team out here. It was funny, a moment ago I was running from the TBT to get here, and I saw some of your partners out there doing their thing, you know. So we see the impact that DNA Sports Talk is making out here in the world. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule on this late evening to talk with us, talk a little sports, and have a little dialogue. But without further ado, man, Falcons training camp is underway. I know a lot of fans here are truly excited. They'll be back at Mercedes-Benz pretty soon. Actually, Sunday, they'll have a special camp that'll be open to the public at Mercedes-Benz. It's just $5 to get in, and the Falcons will be doing the practice. I know we see you constantly up at Flowery Branch, checking out what Julio, Matt, and the guys are doing. So what are your expectations for the Falcons this year as they move into training camp?
As they move into training camp, I think one of the emphasis will be on the defensive side of the ball. Because you got several players, especially Neil. You had, what's his name? Alford was banged up a little bit last year. As long as they're healthy, the defense should continue to improve. Went from dead last to 16th, I want to say, in total defense, up to top 10. That will be the objective in camp, is make sure everyone is healthy and that the defense has a great year, because I think the offense under his second year with Sarkisian will struggle a little bit, not because of having a second year learning the offense, but let's be honest, this is his second year in the pros. So he's going to have some adjustment. There are tape now on the things that he likes to run. So the offense is, usually in football, the offense always takes some time getting out the gate, so to speak. And the defense has to maintain and keep it together as far as wins and losses is concerned until the offense gets on track.
You hit the nail right on the head right there, because I wanted to ask you about Coach Sharp and the expectations for him. You know, Dan Quinn, it almost seems like he pretty much has his soldiers in line as far as the defense, as you mentioned, and the team he's trying to mold and what he's looking to build. There's been a lot of criticism on the offensive play last year. They actually put up, I believe it was 10 points less per game and 50 less yards per game on the offensive side of the ball. So as you mentioned, the tape is out on Coach Shark, but do you think that he'll have an opportunity to lift the offense, and who could be some key pieces to helping that be without being number 11?
I think he has a short leash. I think because they brought in Knapp back as a quote-unquote consultant.
Great point.
I see Sark being on a very short leash as far as play calling is concerned. And at that point, it'll be back to Knapp running the offense again. The only thing, and it's kind of like the Madden curse, anytime a quarterback gets a big payout, they don't have the same numbers they did the year before. Nope. So if that means Matt Ryan is going to lose some productivity, then that means the offense can struggle.
We've seen Matt Ryan, possibly at his peak as an MVP. It's kind of funny now. We'll see. This will be the second year that Coach Shanahan is out in the Bay Area with the 49ers. When he was here, Falcons fans were kind of on a roller coaster with him. Do you think that they'll miss him midway into the season? And do you see Coach Knapp actually taking over the position this season?
I see Knapp taking over, but it won't be publicly. It'll be behind the scenes, because you can't have that kind of public publicity to where you basically, quote unquote, fire an offense coordinator midway through the season, and this is supposed to be the team that's supposed to be the first one to play in the Super Bowl in their own stadium.
So going back in the training camp, how big is it Julio showing up on the first day?
they got his contract done. I don't think it's a big deal because Julio and Matt have played together for a few years now. They know each other, and if it were one of their first or second years together where they need to be on the same page, I get it. But if he had missed the entire training camp, as long as he's working out and healthy, I don't see a problem in it. I mean, people forget that Brett Favre sat out all the time, and he wouldn't even let his team know if he was going to play or not. And then he shows up game one and starts to play. I think the bigger picture is these guys are going to start having to do 2-year contracts. Because if you got 3 years on your contract and all of a sudden you can negotiate a bigger deal on extension, that's setting a precedent, basically Pandora's box on every other contract that comes out.
So would you say this is a contract year for Julio, making that point? You know, we've yet to see A.J. Green. He'll be getting a new deal soon, possibly. Of course, Odell Beckham is out looking for a new deal. Julio wants to be paid as the top receiver in the league. So is this a contract year for a gentleman who's been scoring 3 touchdowns and is second in the NFL in drop passes?
Wow. They're going to bring up that man's stats like that.
That's great. That's great stats.
1,400 yards, but you're going to focus in on the 3 touchdowns.
I mean, because I'm quite sure when he goes to sit down at the negotiation table. I mean, honestly, me, from the perspective of being a fan, I love Julio's game. I love everything he brings to the table. But if we're negotiating and I'm Arthur Blank and I'm Thomas Dimitrov, I'm going to bring up last year's performance in Philadelphia against the Eagles when he had the chance to win the game. I'm going to bring up the drop pass in Carolina in the end zone. I'm going to bring up, as I mentioned, his how it almost seems his touchdowns are declining, and I know that because I've had him in fantasy football the last few seasons, and he has not been producing, and his health. Thank you, Brent, and his health. So would you look at this, as you mentioned, you just brought up a phenomenal point, with NFL players possibly taking over the same positions as NBA players and just signing 1- and 2-year deals. Is this a contract year with Arthur Blank and them pretty much just coming out and saying we will look at the issue in the 2019 offseason depending on what you do this year?
We always talk about this is a business, and if you have an employee whose productivity is continued to decrease, as a business person, you don't sign them to a max deal. And as you mentioned, his health. When's the last time Julio has played 16 games?
I don't think he has.
So at that point, you factor in those things. And that's why you say, yes, you are a top 3 wide receiver at this moment. However, because of these things, we're going to have to make it more incentive-based as opposed to guaranteed money.
If you had to go to Vegas today and place your bet on where the Falcons would finish this season, what is their record? And if you have them making the postseason, how far do you see them going?
I got them as a wild card at 9-7, and they're out in the first round.
Interesting. Well, we're not too far right now from Mercedes-Benz, so that means we're not too far from the new look Phillips Arena, where our Atlanta Hawks play. Now, you know, I think it's funny our Atlanta Hawks are gearing fans up for the new arena, and I'm quite sure we'll all get a chance to check the arena out before doors open to the public. That's something I'm looking forward to myself. But the Hawks also dropped off some information today of their new fan-friendly concession prices. We'll have potato chips for $1. You'll be able to get candy, jumbo pretzels, and bottled water for $2. You'll be able to get fries, hot dogs, nachos, and bottled soda for $3. A slice of pizza, bottomless popcorn, and bottomless soda, where you can just consistently go back and get soda throughout the game for $4. And for all the alcohol consumers who just want to come to the game and have a beer was dropped from about $12, $10, $9, depending on what brand of beer you're purchasing, to $5. So with the new arena, with us knowing that, you know, we'll have the Trae Youngs out there and a gentleman we'll talk about in a moment who's done his thing on the all-star level for several years. What are your thoughts on what the Hawks are trying to do to get fans involved and come to the stadium with these new fan-friendly concession prices?
Yeah, and it's great that they piggyback off Mercedes-Benz and what is taking place at the new stadium as far as prices are concerned. We both know that the price of tickets are going to go up. They have to pay for the renovations. And what you don't want to do is have to charge, like you mentioned, $10, $12 for a hamburger, and you going up on prices of tickets. It's bad enough that when LeBron comes in town, Durant comes in town, the nosebleed seats shoot up from $30, $40 to $120, and it's hard to take a family to a game. So by lowering the prices, you're now having more people try to attend the game and actually sit there and eat and enjoy the game, as opposed to probably trying to eat before you go to the game.
It was funny. I was looking at some of these prices. I said, man, if the menu in the media room doesn't look too good, I'm gonna just take my $5 and go get some fries and get a bottle of water and be pretty happy about that. The Hawks have been making some moves this offseason. Nothing too big. Signing Jeremy Lin. They also brought over Alex Lin. They're doing some things, but something caught my eye. They traded Dennis Schroeder for Carmelo Anthony for a moment. Some Hawks fans were excited, thinking we were going to see Melo here in the Volt in red or Volt in black, depending on the night. He'll be waived and most likely be taking his talents to Houston to play with Chris Paul and James Harden. But we do have a superstar in the twilight of his career who will be coming to, I want to say, mentor and I guess coach the team. And Vince Carter, formerly of the Toronto Raptors. We know what he's done through his high-flying antics throughout his NBA career. He may be on his last leg or, even on his last big toe. I don't know where exactly he is in his career, but he's coming on a 1-year veteran minimum deal for $2.4 million. Are you excited about this signing? Did you see this coming? And how do you feel like this will impact the young players, Taurean Prince, the Amari Spellmans, and, of course, the first-round top 5 draft pick in Trae Young?
I see this one coming at all. But I'm glad that Vince Carter is here. He brings the veteran savvy. He can still play. It's not like, he's going to be regulated to a Juwan Howard type person where he's just on the bench basically in the suit, even though he's technically on the roster. He will actually have some minutes and be a good locker room person for the young guys. And we're still not sure about Pierce, the coach. Like, what's his style of basketball that he's going to bring? How does he want to have these young guys involved in what type of offense? So I think it was an excellent move, but one I surely didn't see coming.
Where do you see the Hawks finishing this year? Me, myself, I've already been starting this campaign for Trae Young to be the Rookie of the Year. I am interested to see how his game translates to the NBA game. I think his summer league performance will be enough compared to what we see him do when he actually gets the opportunity to play with the starters. But what are your expectations for this young Hawks team this season?
I think they will. 35 wins is what I'm giving them for the season, which is what 16 more than what they had before.
Okay,
almost. But I see them starting off slow, learning a new system, learning each other. But after All-Star break, I see them putting things together. But of course, it'll be too little, too late by that time to make a postseason run.
Can you see Trae Young possibly joining the Rookie of the Year campaign and, bringing that trophy here to Atlanta at the end of the season?
He'll definitely be in the conversation because he has the ball in his hands, either scoring or passing. And if he takes the hints that Kobe does with his show, I think he can have a really good year where he could possibly lead most of the rookies in scoring and definitely in assists. And by having those two stats, it definitely keeps him in the conversation, and more than likely he'll win it.
Once again, we're joined by Don Stinson. Make sure you follow him on social media, DNA Sports Talk. Once again, that's DNA Sports Talk. Atlanta's not known for its sports fan base. You know, they say every weekend 2,000 to 5,000 people move to Atlanta or the outskirts of Atlanta. So there are people coming from all over the world, all over the nation, of course. So you have Eagles fans such as myself. We have Ravens fans such as my partner. We have Jets fans such as our executive producer. We have cats from all over rooting for their particular teams. But to me, so far, something that's caught my eye and has been very surprising and unique is the way ATLians are adapting to Major League Soccer in the play of Atlanta United FC. Now, Arthur Blank has been committed to bringing a championship soccer program to Atlanta. Of course, they play in a world-class facility, playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're currently one of the top teams in the MLS with a record of 13, 4, and 5. And they have my new favorite player in soccer and one of the best players in soccer right now by the name of Joseph Martinez. What are your thoughts on the Atlanta United? And did you see this coming? Did you see? I had the opportunity to go to my first game. I know you've attended several of the soccer games. It is an electric atmosphere, one that I have yet to see at a Falcons game, at a Braves game, or a Hawks game here in Atlanta. The team is winning, and it's almost like they have the best player in soccer right now in Joseph Martinez. Did you see this coming, and what are your thoughts on the United?
I knew that Arthur Blank is a very shrewd businessman, and for him to invest in Major League Soccer and bring a team to Atlanta, he did his homework. So he went out to Cobb County, Gwinnett, Clayton, Henry, Fulton, and said, okay, if we bring soccer here, who will attend, how many people, and try to gauge it, because this doesn't happen overnight to where you all of a sudden say, hey, let me go hire some people and start this soccer team and put my bid in. This took place over the course of about, I would guess, 6 or 7 years before making the official announcement. And you got to remember, back when the Georgia Dome was still there was a friendly between, I want to say, Nigeria and Mexico that sold out in a matter of a day. And that gave you an idea of that soccer would be huge and be well attended. And at that point, it was about getting young players, getting the right president, getting the right general manager, which it seems like they struck gold on all of those, and putting this team together. Now, as you mentioned, Atlanta is a melting pot from everyone. So if you go to a Falcons game and there are 50,000 people, as you mentioned, like yourself, anywhere from 15 to 18,000 can be Eagles fans or, Jets fans. But when there are 72,000 or 60,000 people, you're only talking about 500 people that are going to see DC United or the New York Red Bull. The other 99% are all United fans, which changes the entire dynamics of the game.
How have you, what are your thoughts on how the hip hop community here in Atlanta has taken stride and is appreciated? We see T.I., we've seen 2 Chainz, Cap G, Killer Mike. Several of our prominent Atlanta hip hop figures and superstars are going out and supporting the United. Is that something that you've seen coming, and do you think that will translate and branch off to other soccer programs in other cities such as the New Yorks, the LAs, the Torontos, and so forth?
And becoming a hotbed of music and now film and industry, it makes it unique that those type of artists that are from here, live here, are the ones that are supporting it. The very first game at Bobby Dodd Stadium, they played Shawty Lo Day No. So at that point, they started from the very beginning saying, we're going to ingratiate hip hop and our artists into this and make them a focal point of what we're trying to do in our brand. Now, by doing so, they have crossed every race, gender, everything, and made everything inclusive. In one section, you can have people from 5 different nations sitting together and 4 different generations watching the same soccer match. So in that respect, they struck gold on the fan base.
Once again, he is Don Stinson of DNA Sports Talk. Why don't you let our audience know how they can check out what you have going on, how they can check out your show as well. You do a wonderful show on Mondays, and how they can stay in tune with all the sports coverage you're bringing them.
And thank you. It's DNA Sports Talk, all one word. You can find it on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. The website is dnasportstalk.com, and email dnasportstalk@gmail.com. We're on Monday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1100 a.m. Still waiting on you to come on the show.
I have to come. You know, you were a great man. You had me calling, and it was a wonderful dialogue that you put together about a month or so ago when I was in LA. That was a wonderful opportunity, you know, and I'm blessed to know you, man. You're a great man. It's great to know brothers like you doing wonderful things. You know, continued success out here, and we'll have you in studio soon, and I will definitely pull up, and you know, I'll be here in Atlanta for some time, so I'll definitely pull up and come check out what you got going on Monday nights as well.
And what's that? 2 days? We
Yep.
know how you do.
Yep. That's too. What is this? This upcoming Monday, they got one of those Birds of a Feather premieres. I'll send you the details on that. But I'll be free to follow on Monday, so we can make something shake, man. Come in there and talk some sports trash with you.
Always a pleasure, brother.
Thank you for your time, man. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Once again, that was Don Stinson. Thank you for him tuning in and calling and you know, giving us some dope insight on a few things. You know, he's everywhere. That brother's everywhere. You know, we see him a lot when we're out doing different things. He's doing a lot of great things. It's always great to see fellow African-American sports journalists out doing great things. But don't worry, people, with show is just getting started. We got a lot more to talk about.
Yes,
As we just mentioned, NFL training camp is underway. We're going to talk about that. Some new deals that recently took place. Still, we're going to talk about Puma. Can they make some major moves in the NBA? There are also two other figures who are kind of shaky. One gentleman may be losing a shoe deal, and one gentleman may be picking one up. We'll talk about that as well. But first, check out this new trailer. We'll be right back here. I'm Terrell Thomas.
I'm Brandon Triche.
And H is behind the mic doing the 1-2-1-2. This is Sideline Stories presented by Live Hip Hop Daily in these urban times, live in downtown Atlanta at the Live Hip Hop Daily Studios.